Jason Buttrill joins us now. Jason is our head researcher and former military intelligence and has been watching Iran for me for the last couple of days. We've been watching it, as you know, if you're a longtime listener of this program. I've been watching Iran since 2001, really, and been watching it intensely since about 2005 or 6, when we started to really understand the 12th Imam and what these Shia believers actually believe about how to bring the end of the world or the new era. We would say bring Jesus back. They would say bring the 12th Imam back. That 12th Imam, if you read their scriptures and our scriptures, we would describe that as the Antichrist. And the way to do that is to cause chaos. So we've been watching Iran, and I've told you before, chaos is the word that you need to look for. Anything that causes chaos or confusion is not from a good source. And anyone who is trying to cause chaos and confusion, and I would put the media and many people in Washington, both parties, I would put a lot of people into people who are enriching themselves on causing confusion and chaos. That is the real problem. We're about to see if we are entering a new phase in the world. Jason is here. You have the latest from the Pentagon that we now have confirmed that the missiles did come from inside Iran.
That's what they have just said as of about 15 minutes ago, is that they have tracked the actual launch locations, and it's in southern Iran. So if that is true, it's going to be extremely hard for the U.S. not to respond to this. I said yesterday that this makes absolutely no sense and that I probably won't even believe it if they say it came from Iran, because conventional logic says that that's just stupid. That's not how Iran has operated in the past. Unless you factor in the ideology of the 12 or Shia.
This is something that the world will pay no attention to, and you must. You do not have to buy into this. I want to make sure that atheists who are listening, and even Christians or Muslims who believe in the supernatural but don't believe in this, it doesn't matter what you believe. What matters is what the mullahs believe. They are 12ers, and they believe that at the end of the world, before the great change, before Jesus comes back, which they believe Jesus will come back, but he will testify as a prophet to the divinity of Muhammad. The 12ers believe that they can hasten the return of the promised one by causing terrible global bloodshed, that you have to throw the world into chaos, and you must also vaporize the Jew.
You got to look at this in the context of what's going on right now in the next couple of weeks. Why this attack now? Why did it happen? Rouhani has said that he's at least, or made, comments that he'd be willing to talk to President Trump. He's talking to
that's the president.
The president,
right?
He's been talking to Macron, French President Macron. They've been trying hard to get a deal done to bring Iran back into the nuke deal,
right? And President Trump has said he's willing to meet with him,
right? Okay. And that's going on in a couple weeks. There's a UN meeting where they're all getting together. That's where they're trying to get this done.
Okay.
Now, who you're talking about, the mullahs, the clerical regime.
So you have to understand, this is their supreme council. So their government has a president and a parliament or whatever, all of the stuff that we would recognize from other countries. But up above that is the Supreme Council. They're like God. They speak for God, and they have their own military force. They control everything when they want to. So they can decide to do something and not go through any legal or any political entity at all. They can do whatever they want, and the president doesn't even have to know about it.
The president doesn't have to know about it. Their head of their version of the Secretary of State, Javad Zarif, he's always denying all these things that's going on. And I don't doubt he is denying because he has no idea. The what you talked about, their military arm within the clerical portion is called the IRGC, and they're the ones that have the Quds Force. They're the ones that are trying to encircle Israel. They're the ones that operate all the militias, like the Houthis in Yemen, like all the other militia, Hezbollah. Soleimani is their commander, and he's the most famous figurehead for them. You see him all the time in the media. They've got a very specific mission, and just like you said, is to eventually encircle Israel, because that is where the end of the world will trigger.
Right. And this makes sense if your goal is to create bloodshed, chaos, and vaporize the Jew. You don't want this meeting.
Right.
You want that nuke program to be free and encumbered and to go forward. You can lie about it, but if you're close enough, it would make sense. Look, we're close. Just get the thing done and let's use it.
Right.
And go ahead, pick fights, because the more unstable the world, the faster the end will come.
So that's I did not believe this at first, but then we were talking yesterday, and I was like, geopolitical rules are set in stone, and that's why nations usually always act the same regardless of who's in power. But every once in a while, you'll get a Lenin, you'll get a Mao, you'll get a Hitler, or an ideology like the Nazis that completely upends all logic on it. That is what the IRGC is doing right now in Iran. It's very possible this is legit. I'm sure that if it is, we'll probably see satellite imagery coming out probably within the day. If we do, I would not be surprised at all if there is a military strike by the U.S. tonight. Would not doubt it.
The U.S. has to, because for the mullahs to want to fight, they have things up their sleeve. They have to have had a global plan. If they're going to actually start to execute, destabilize, and wash the world in blood, then they would have had their allies and operatives know, when we say go, when you see the signal, go, and create all kinds of chaos. If the United States looks like we are going after Iran and the world says it's the Houthis, even the man on the street says it's the Houthis, we lose big time, because the Muslim world will kind of ban against us, on the Shia Muslim world. Do you believe that?
Yes, to a certain extent. I think a lot of the Muslim world there, Shia, specifically the Shia, are getting a little bit sick and tired of what Iran is doing. Mm-hmm. I think that especially their own people. If this would kick off, let's say we attack them, and the people in Iran, it's already a powder keg there. They just hit 50% inflation, which their president promised them that would never happen again. Mm-hmm. They're there. Food prices are up over 80%. They're still doing demonstrations in the streets. They're ready to kick off. Now, if a military event is triggered by this hardline group, the IRGC and all the mullahs and the Ayatollah, then this fracture is just going to continue to happen. Now, I think that's going to happen anyway through sanctions. Mm-hmm. I think they'll get to that point anyway. Mm-hmm. The problem is the president right now is restricted under alliances that he's had. They've been building an alliance in the Middle East between the Gulf nations and Israel. It's not signed, but it's just like it's what they're trying to do to counter Iran. The president's operating under that.
I just don't want to play into the mullahs are picking a fight. Mm-hmm. I don't want to respond. You know, it's. I know we're talking about nukes and we're talking about people dying and, you know, global energy and everything else, but you want it to be on your terms, and they're picking a fight. Why punch down? So I'm really hoping that the president is putting us in the back of the bus instead of the front of the bus. I don't want to be driving this. Let Saudi Arabia. Why can't we just say Saudi Arabia, look, we'll sell you a new airplane if one of yours is shot down. This is your thing. They attacked you, not us. Take it. We'll support you at the UN, but we're not part of it.
Yeah, that would be a significant change from the past, 30 years.
A good change, wouldn't it?
No, yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely a good change, and that would help us kind of disconnect from that area.
Would we get credit for disconnecting?
No, I think we'd get killed for it. We'd get killed for it.
By who?
Pretty much everyone. Because anytime you disrupt that old world order, you know what I'm saying? That what always they call the rules-based. Right.
What would be the targets that we would hit?
I think they would target specifically the sites. That I think that's why they're being so vocal about it. They're going to stay away from their oil infrastructure because that will be the Iranians will feel compelled to respond a lot more fiercely. But if you respond directly towards those launch sites, then that's a little bit less than hitting their oil infrastructure. So that's the safer play for them. It's not safe at all, but it's the safest.
What does that do? I mean, I guess that's a response without really making anybody pay for it.
Yeah, and it's an attempt to not only knock out their capabilities, but to deter them from doing it again.